the winter of 1959, a group of experienced hikers ventured into the Ural Mountains in Russia. Weeks later, their bodies were found scattered in the snow, some half-dressed, others with unexplained injuries. What happened to them remains one of the most terrifying mysteries of the 20th century. But what if you were there to witness it? You're part of a group of 9 hikers, led by Igor Dyatlov, trekking through the dense, snow-covered woods of the Ural Mountains. The air is biting cold and the wind howls like a wounded animal. The group is in high spirits, laughing and joking as they set up camp on the slopes of Kolotyakhl, known as Dead Mountain by the locals. The name doesn't bother you. You're experienced, and the mountain is just another challenge. That night, something changes. The temperature drops suddenly, and the wind grows louder, almost like a scream. You hear strange noises outside the tent, footsteps crunching in the snow, but when you peek outside, there's nothing but darkness. The group brushes it off as the wind playing tricks, but unease settles in. Around midnight, chaos erupts. Someone screams, "We need to leave, now!" The group scrambles out of the tent, cutting through the fabric to escape. You don't know why you're running, but the fear is primal, overwhelming. You sprint into the woods, the snow up to your knees, the cold burning your lungs. Behind you, you hear something. A low, guttural growl, unlike any animal you've ever heard. The group splits up in panic. You and 2 others find shelter under a tree, but the others aren't so lucky. Days later, rescuers find the first bodies. One hiker's skull is crushed. Another's tongue is missing. The tent is torn open from the inside, as if they were fleeing something. The last body is found miles away, as if they were trying to outrun an unseen terror. Years later, investigators conclude that the hikers died from an unknown compelling force. Some say it was an avalanche. Others blame military experiments or even extraterrestrials. But you know the truth. You saw the shadows moving in the woods, heard the growls that didn't belong to any animal. Whatever it wasn't natural. And it's still out there, waiting in the woods. In the summer of 1998, a group of campers in the forests of Oregon reported encountering strange children with pitch-black eyes. The children begged for help, but something about them was deeply wrong. This is their story. The story. You and your friends are camping deep in the woods, far from civilization. The fire crackles and the stars are bright overhead. The night is peaceful until you hear a faint knock on a tree nearby. You freeze, listening. The knock comes again, closer this time. Then a small voice calls out, "Can you help us? We're lost." You shine your flashlight toward the sound and see 2 children, no older than 10, standing at the edge of the clearing. They're pale, their clothes tattered, and their eyes completely black like voids. Your stomach churns as they step closer, repeating, "Can you help us? We're cold." Your friends are frozen in fear. One of the children reaches out, and you notice their hands are unnaturally long, their fingers claw-like. You stumble backward, but they keep advancing, their voices growing louder, more desperate. "Let us in. We just want to be warm." You grab a burning log from the fire and wave it at them. They hiss, retreating into the shadows. The forest falls silent, but the feeling of being watched lingers. You pack up camp and leave immediately, but as you drive away, you see their faces in the rearview mirror, standing in the middle of the road, their black eyes staring into your soul. The ending. Years later, you learn that other campers have reported similar encounters in those woods. Some have gone missing, their campsites found abandoned, with no trace of what happened. You never go back to the forest, but sometimes late at night, you hear a faint knock on your window and a small voice whispering, "Let us in." In the remote forests of Canada, there are legends of the Wendigo, a malevolent spirit that possesses humans, driving them to cannibalism. But what if the legend is real? What if you encountered it? You're on a solo hunting trip in the Canadian wilderness, miles from the nearest town. The woods are eerily quiet, the usual sounds of birds and animals absent. As you set up camp, you notice strange tracks in the snow. Large, human-like footprints, but with claws. You brush it off as a bear, but the unease stays with you. That night, you hear something moving outside your tent. You grab your rifle and step out, shining your flashlight into the darkness. The beam catches a figure standing between the trees, tall, emaciated with glowing eyes and antlers protruding from its skull. Your blood runs cold as it lets out a guttural screech and lunges toward you. You fire your rifle, but the creature doesn't stop. It's fast, unnaturally fast, and you barely make it back to your tent. You spend the night in terror, listening to its footsteps circling your camp. At dawn, the creature is gone, but the tracks are everywhere. You try to leave, but the woods seem endless. You're lost and the creature is hunting you. Days pass and hunger sets in. You start to hear voices whispering in your mind, urging you to give in, to eat. You find the remains of another hunter, and the voices grow louder. Eat. Survive. Rescuers find your camp weeks later. The tent is shredded and the remains of several animals and possibly humans are scattered around. You're never found, but the rescuers swear they heard something moving in the trees, watching them with glowing eyes. The Wendigo legend lives on and the woods remain a place of unspeakable horror,